Shalom and welcome once again to elders of GMS, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Today's topic is entitled An In-Depth Focus on Revelation, the 9th chapter. Now we're going to get into the topic, all right? An in-depth focus on Revelation, the 9th chapter. I want to start with Revelation, the 8th chapter and the 13th verse, and then we're going to come back to Revelation, the 8th chapter. So we're going to do a lot of jumping around, mainly in the different chapters of Revelation, of the book of Revelation, all right? Go ahead.
Revelation 8 and 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound.
Now, that, like I said, it pretty much explains itself. I'm just going to go into the woes. The word woe, if you look at the word woe, it means, if you go to the blue letter and look it up, it means the last. Like, for example, if you go to Revelation, the 18th chapter, alas, that great city, Babylon, for in 1 hour, so forth and so on. Well, that word alas is the same Greek word for the word woe. In other words, your time has come. So these woes that the angel proclaimed, the last three woes, or the next three woes that are to sound, is talking about 5 is talking about World War I, 6 is talking about World War II, and 3 is talking about the end of World War III, because World War III is really being fought already. Okay, what's going to end it is that last woe. Okay, now let's go right to Revelation, the 9th chapter, and we're going to start from the very top.
Revelation chapter 9 verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven.
Right, these are the last three angels. The scriptures also refer to them as angels, trumpets, all right? So the fifth angel represent the first of the last three woes. Go ahead.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit.
Now, the bottomless pit is Europe. How do we know that it's Europe? Because when you go to Revelation, the 20th chapter, when the Byzantine Empire took over Esau and took over Europe, because the so-called Byzantine Empire, or the Christian Empire, whatever you want to call it, led by the first king or the ruler, which was Constantine the Great. We was all up in Europe, and then later you had what was called the Crusades, where you had our people trying to get back into Jerusalem from Europe. Now, where did the beast, we all know who the beast is. If you watched all of our shows, you all know who the beast is. The beast represent the NATO and the EU and the United States. But in the ancient world, going back 2,000 years, it's talking about the Roman Empire, which is the same power coming back all over again. So that's how we know that the bottomless pit is talking about Europe, because the beast came out of Europe. All right, go ahead.
This is our 2nd Ezra chapter 5 verse 23. And said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen thee only one vine. And of all lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee but one pit.
Yeah, one pit. So they ain't talking about the pit over there. Go ahead.
Revelation 9 and 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit.
Now this is talking about war. In this case, it's talking about the First World War. All right, go ahead.
It says, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads.
Now, I want you to read that again.
Verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing.
This is talking about locusts. What do locusts do? They eat the grass, they eat the leaves off the tree, they eat the crop. So it said these particular locusts are not going to do these things. So we know it's not talking about locusts. What John saw, and another thing that you have to understand, the book of Revelation is basically the same story played out over and over again, but with different symbols. Like, for example, when you go to the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, and you go to the book of Daniel, the seventh chapter, it speaks about them same kingdoms, but in the 2nd chapter, it's set up as a statue, and in the 7th chapter, it's set up as different beasts. So when you go to the book of Revelation, it's the same story over and over again. Okay? Go ahead.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads.
And the locust can't hurt a man. The locust can't fly down and hurt a man. They eat greenery. But it said that these locusts had, did we read the part about the scorpion? Read that again.
Verse 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpion of the earth have power.
And we're going to find out what that meant or what that means. So I want to set up the first video right here. And for the most part, this is actual footage of what happened back there. Yeah, this right here is during World War I, and these are the dog fighters they called them, which the Germans perfected this whole thing about dog fighting and having a cockpit in the back with a man, a gunman, and you're gonna see it right now. They're just showing one man in the cockpit, and what John saw. He actually saw the future. The Lord just brought him to the future. And he saw World War II taking place. He saw Kaiser Wilhelm, which was the no, go ahead. There's no sound on that. This is from a video game of actual locusts, and you can see how they look like the dog fighters. Right, well, he was a head man, which we're gonna read down. He was a head man of that bottomless pit at that time, because the Germans was on top. That's why they had set up that World War. Now you see the guy right there. They showed the guy in the cockpit with the machine gun. That's what John saw. It looked like a scorpion. This is the tail gunner. There it is again. Because he didn't know what he was seeing. He wrote down, they look like locusts, because there were no planes back then. And brother, do me a favor. Go to the Wright brothers. Give me the year that they invented the plane. All right, 1903. All right, 1903 in Kitty Hawk. Now you notice how the Most High used them to invent that plane so they can be ready to have this war in the World War. And the locusts, like I said, were the fighter jets or the dog fighters that a few years back the Wright brothers had invented. Why? Because the Most High put the spirit on them to make prophecy come to pass. So Esau didn't figure this thing out. The Most High put it in their spirit to make these planes, man. Okay, now are we going to go back to the scriptures? All right, go ahead.
Revelation 9 and 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them
And you just saw the locusts. Go ahead.
and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power.
And they were given power as the scorpions have power on the earth. In other words, what does a scorpion do? A scorpion stings you, and if you don't get to a doctor quick, you're going to die. Go ahead.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man.
Right, now the scorpion killed you, these planes killed you, but there was some that were gravely wounded. All right, read on.
And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Now, we're going to get that article up and ready, brother. Read that again.
And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Right, and they shall desire to die, but death shall flee from them. You know what that's talking about? Okay, this is an article of somebody that was wounded, severely wounded, and this guy wanted to die, man. Now, back then, they didn't have all these painkillers like you have today. Another thing you have to understand, this First World War, they didn't consider that they were going to have so many wounded and so many dead. So they had to figure out how we're going to get the dead and the wounded out. Because in World War I, they left a lot of them wounded soldiers out there just to die. It wasn't like the Vietnam conflict where you had choppers come in. It was stretchers and come down and get the injured and take them to a mass unit. They didn't have that. They had to figure that thing out. They had to say, now we have to figure out in the next war how we going to get the wounded out. How we going to get the dead out. Okay? So the part where it said death fled from them, read that again.
It's verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Yeah, they had to deal with that pain of those wounds, because some of them died, but some of them got totally jacked up. And then some of them were bugged out in their mind through there was shell shock, a syndrome called shell shock syndrome. So they couldn't die because, like I said, when they were operating on them and chopping their legs off, basically they were giving them liquor to drink to numb the pain. And the only drug that nullified that pain was morphine. They didn't have the painkillers like they have, the technology of medicine like they have today. So we're going to read about this one man.
Yeah, you'll see the banner of the web page. Basically, it says, no end for the wounded. It says, many men wounded on November 11th succumbed to injuries after the 11th hour. Many more endured years of pain and suffering over physical wounds that couldn't quite heal right or could never be healed.
The reason why they couldn't quite heal right because they didn't have the medical know-how like they do today. Like I said, the only painkiller they had was morphine. So they had to deal with that pain for the most part. And they wanted to die. Go ahead.
Reading on, it says, one of the most horrifying, a Commonwealth soldier named Thomas was gravely wounded on November 6th, just before the negotiations started, and was still alive and conscious when the armistice took effect. Whatever hit him in the face literally tore away the lower parts of his face, nose, mouth, and jaw, Amazingly, he suffered. After years of surgical reconstruction, Thomas finally had something approaching a normal-looking face in August of 1922.
Yeah, because he got wounded in the 11th hour. Now that's saying the 11th hour come from World War I, because that emeritus that they signed was at the 11th hour. It was on the 11th month of the 11th day of 1918 at the 11th hour in the morning, 11 a.m. So that's showing you that Esau deals with numerology, all right, which is a witchcraft on the negative side. Now I want to show you this next video clip about the war wounded. Go ahead and read on it now.
Yeah, this is from a web page. It says, how were wounded soldiers treated during World War I? They were usually patch jobs, and they did the best they could. They didn't have helicopters to come and airlift them out. That's exactly what Elder Tahar said earlier. And then he mentioned the MASH unit, you know, which they had during the Vietnam War. All right, well, actually Korean. That was the Korean War with the MASH unit. Reading on, it says, it was by the grace of the Most High, or by grace of God, many survived from their wounds. In some cases, there were hospitals near the fighting lines, but generally not enough doctors or nurses. Many people died in no man's land due to no one being able to help them and more concerned about saving themselves. Yet, there were the few soldiers that managed to drag back wounded soldiers back to the trenches, or back in the trenches,
unable to
receive treatment. When a soldier was too injured to continue, he relied on courageous soldiers to bring them back from over the top.
Showing the effects of
the form
shell
of trauma
shock.
known as shell shock was very common among war veterans, and it caused its sufferers to undergo fits of intense fear and shaking. The fear of being bombed, which they had lived with every day for 4 years on end.
This is just a glimpse of how Esau going to be looking in the kingdom anyway. Looking all bugged out, all messed up. When they see you, they're going to be in fear, man. They're going to be in fear.
Some patients felt compelled to go hide themselves at the mere mention of the word bomb. Some veterans even felt terror grip them whenever they saw a uniform.
This is how Esau going to be. He's going to be brought down to nothing, to a nobody.
Tens of thousands of soldiers also lost one or more limbs in this war.
They're going out of business. Keep it going, brother. Keep it going. Going out of business. Look at this guy. Look at him. Now, would you want to live looking like these guys? It's a horrible way to live, man. Look at him. Missing an arm. He's not happy. Now this guy, I don't know whether he's a Hamite or a Benjaminite, but you know they had a lot of Israelites fight. They had a lot of Jakes. They make movies on World War I, and you always see Esau, right? You always see Esau. You know they had a lot of Jakes, Israelites, actually fighting in that war. They actually went to the islands, and they shipped from the main island was Jamaica, I believe. Well, it's on the document, but there was other islands, Saint Kitts. I don't know if you have it in front of you. Saint Kitts, Barbados, all these different islands, all these different places down there in the West Indian Islands that they shipped over there to Europe to fight this war. If you want to read on it, Doc.
Yeah, again, this is from a webpage, about.com, casualties of World War I. I'll just go right to the point. Notes on countries. With regards to Africa, the figure of 55,000 refers to soldiers who saw combat, the number of combat in World War I. The number of Africans involved and auxiliaries of otherwise is likely to include several 100,000 troops were drawn from Nigeria, Gambia, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Uganda, Nyasaland, Malawi, Kenya, and the Gold Coast. Figures for South Africa were given separately. In the Caribbean, the British West Indies Regiment drew men from across the region, including Barbados, Bahamas, Honduras, Grenada, Guyana, Leeward Islands, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and Trinidad and Tobago. The bulk came from Jamaica.
So that right there proves that you had Israelites, thousands of Israelites that went over there and fought that war. Okay? This is why this scripture is in here. We're going to read this again.
Revelation 9:4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing nor any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads.
Only those men that did not have the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. So the Israelites that were over there, it's obvious they had the seal of the Most High in their foreheads, because they were going to have children, and their children were going to have children, and their children were going to have children. So you got brothers today that are among the 144,000 whose great-great-grandfather, which was probably you, that was actually in that war. So no matter what happened, you wouldn't die.
Yeah, there's a chart here entitled Casualties of World War I. Now, earlier I read the account of the troops that came out of the Caribbean. Now, they give the numbers here. It says the Caribbean mobilized 21,000, killed were 1,000, wounded 3,000. This is the combination of all the islands, which includes Jamaica. Total unknown 4,000. The percentage of the casualties were 19% from the West Indian Islands during World War I. And total mobilized was 21,000.
So you got that, right? Okay, let's read on.
Verse, Revelation 9:5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when they striketh a man. And in those days...
Now that 5 months represent really almost 5 years, about 5 years. Because the war started in 1914 and it ended in 1918. So you got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It was a little less than 5 years. In the 5th year, that's when that war, it was November, really at the end of the year. And another fact is that the U.S., they didn't get involved with this war until like the last 7 months of the war. All right?
The very next year, they signed what was called the Treaty of Versailles in 1919.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I read that again.
Right. It says, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days men shall seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Now, I'm going to show you that that's not talking about months, because sometimes when the Most High says days, like in Peter's, 2 Peter's, 1 day to him is 1,000 years. So this 5 months is not talking about actual months, because sometimes the Most High will use days, sometimes the Most High will use months, and this can mean a number of years. So you have to have the Spirit of the Most High to open your eyes to it. Now, to prove that, give me the book. I'm going to hit 2 scriptures, Revelation 11 chapter, the 2nd verse, Revelation the 13th chapter, and the 5th verse.
Revelation 11 and 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months.
Right, so these heathens are over there. They've been over there from the very beginning, and they're still over there to this very day. All right? And the holy city, twofold, is talking about us. Because did not they tread over us? That's in the book of Isaiah. They tread over us for a period of 42 months, which adds up to, was it 42 months is 3.5 years, which really means 350 years. So when Esau landed on Plymouth Rock, that's when the bulk of the slaves were being brought over here. So from 1620 until 1970, that's when they were stepping on us. We didn't know nothing. But after 1970, when you go to the book of Obadiah, it said, thence will the Most High, when you set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. So you started going down when you send up that, I forget which Apollo it was. We went through it before, but one of them you had sent up, and that was in 1970, around there, and that's when you started going down. That's when you were in the midst of the Vietnam War. That's when you came back strung out on drugs. What you think gonna happen to these guys that come back? The guys that don't die over there in the Middle East, they're gonna come back strung out on drugs and mess up in their mind, man. Shell shocked. All right. And we're gonna show you that. We're gonna go back to this. What's gonna happen now is the same thing that happened back there in World War I. Go ahead.
Revelation 13 and 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Okay, let's continue let's finish watching this. So when these guys came back, they wasn't looking good. They wasn't looking right. Look at this dude. He's totally bugged. That war totally bugged his ass out. That's Esau in the kingdom, boy. That's what they're gonna be looking like when we come back to that. I wonder if he's gonna be safe. Yeah, you're the Harlem Shake. Well, that's the Cracker Shake. We're laughing about him because we don't give 2 shits about him. That's right. That's right. And the kingdom, we're going to be grabbing them up like that too. He would have been better off dead over there. That's right. That's right. Okay, now let's go back to Revelation, the 9th chapter.
Revelation 9 and 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold. And their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women. And their teeth were as the teeth of lions.
Right, so this is John seeing the dog fighters, guys like the Red Baron, all right, fighting in the sky. And he saw the men inside of the plane, and he saw their faces. But then he went back and forth to where you had the German military in formation, and you had Kaiser Wilhelm, which we're going to read later about. He's the angel of the bottomless pit. They showed him, and they showed his dignitaries around him, and what John saw, he saw them with these helmets on their head, but John said they were a crown, and that's what it was, because you had to have a certain rank to wear that helmet. And there was a TV show called Hogan's Heroes where they showed you that a close-up of that helmet with the spike coming out. But you had men that was of certain ranks that had that helmet with the spike coming out, but then you had high-ranking German officers that had this thing that looked like the hair of a woman. So what John was seeing, he was seeing the dog fighters. Then he saw the actual battle of Verdun. He saw the battle of Verdun. All right, because it mentions the battle of Verdun as far as many other battles in the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter, when it speaks about, behold, there was a red horse. So now I'm going to go to this last clip right here. Hold up. You can see it right there. You can see the crown on their head with the hair coming out as the hair of the woman. Read that again, Ak.
It says, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions.
See it? The hair of woman. And this is Kaiser Wilhelm with a helmet with an eagle. Remember the eagle? That's Esau's symbol. So it's plain, man, that this is talking about World War. Look at that. In formation, the hair of woman. So this is what John, the Revelator, actually saw. There it goes again. And this basically is a old German song, and I believe it's entitled Wunderbar Zeiten, which basically means like wonderful times or good times. Just give me that. Don't worry about it. Just give me that. Speak for it.
Right, and you can clearly see that what the scriptures are saying, you know, and what you have to understand is that when John was on the island of Patmos, when he saw these visions, the Most High, he basically wrote what he saw and what he understood in the terms of his day. You know, because back then they didn't have terms like airplane, you know, and tanks and none of that stuff. So he had to explain the vision in the terminology that was available to him back then. You know, so that's why when you read the book of Revelation, you'll see the word locust. And you know, a locust is shaped a certain way. A locust doesn't have the head of a man. They don't have teeth like lions. But you have to understand that it's talking about right, they don't have tails as a scorpion. So the scorpion tail represents a machine gun. The teeth of the lion represents the bullets that were coming out of the machine gun. The head, the head of a man was because in the plane it looked like the plane had a head of a man. It looked like a locust with a head of a man. So you know that's not talking about an actual locust. You know, so it's talking about these planes. You know, and everything is broken down in there. You know, if the Spirit of the Lord has opened your mind to see it. You know, so you're seeing it here. So he saw all of this, you know. So that's how we know we're in the end of the world, because what the Lord Yahushua showed John on the island of Patmos was the end of the world. The things that were going to happen to know for surety that we were in the end of the world, and that he was soon on his way to come back.
That's right. Now let's read on.
This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 8. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to the battle.
Right. Now, the sound of chariots, the sound of the wings was like the, read again.
It says, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots, of many horses running to battle.
Now last night what I did was I Googled the word World War I dogfighters sound or sound effects, and they'll send you to a site where you can get actual sound effects, right? So I went, you have to pay for this sound effect, but you can sample it. So I click play, and you hear a woman say this is a sample sound effect. But when you hear that sound effect, it sounds like horses and chariots running to battle. Those planes made loud noises. Now you see a plane go by, just like you have a car, you don't have a muffler on the car, that car is going to make all kind of noise. The same thing with planes. You have like a muffling system or a silencing system for the power of the engine from them planes, man. The sound of them from them planes. So the sound of them planes were loud, so you heard them coming. Go ahead.
And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tail.
We saw that earlier when in the clip, and you're seeing it now. How you had two guys in the plane, and you had one guy that was flying, operating the plane, and you had another guy, another German soldier, excuse me, that was actually manning a gun and shooting down the enemy. Go ahead.
And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit.
Now we just showed the clip of the king of them, of the bottomless pit. That was Kaiser Wilhelm. Go ahead.
Whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon.
Right, and both those names mean destroyer, if you look it up. Go ahead.
It says, excuse me, one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter.
Because the angel said in Revelation, the 8th chapter and the 13th verse, he spoke about the 3 woes. The matter of fact, go to that. Go to
Revelation 8:13, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound.
Yeah, the 3 angels which are yet to sound. The first angel that blew that trumpet represent World War I. The second woe, or the second angel, World War II. The third woe, or the third angel, represent World War III. Let's read on.
Verse 12, and 1 woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. Can I read this one real quick? Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly.
All right, go ahead.
Revelation 9:13. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before the Most High, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men.
Now keep in mind the 3rd part of men. The 3rd part of men, you had 3 groups of men. You had the sons of the Most High, you had the sons of men, and you had the sons of the wicked. So the 3rd part of man has to be Esau. So it's talking about Esau being destroyed. All right? Go ahead.
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them.
Now you have most of these Edomite prophetic scholars say that that's talking about the Chinese. That shows you that the Most High ain't dealing with them. It's not talking about the Chinese. All right? It's talking about these missiles. And the number that John heard was what? 200,000, which is 2 million missiles. 2 million missiles can destroy damn near the whole planet Earth. But they're going to be shot on this society right here, on Babylon the Great. Go ahead.
It says, And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone.
Yeah, the mouth represent the nuclear warhead, multiple warhead. Go ahead.
By these was the third part of men killed by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and their heads and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which
Right, heads. They actually mention the word heads, and that's what they call them. The majority of the missile is a thing that propels a missile from one continent to another. That's why they call ICBM missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles. And what you had, the thing that does the damage is a thing called a warhead or multiple warhead. Read that again.
it says, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were
Their power is in the mouth and their tails, meaning the mouth, that's where the warhead is that does the damage, and the tail propels the missile from one target to another. Go ahead.
For their tails are as for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do.
Like again, like so I'm gonna say it again. Just like John said when he saw the locusts, he thought they were locusts. There was no such thing as planes, so he referred to them as locusts. Now, right here, what he's reading, he's referring to them as horses in battle. Talking about serpents, they look like serpents that were flying in the sky and had lion's head, because what does a lion do? Tear your ass up. What are these nuclear warheads going to do? Tear this society up, America up. Go ahead.
And had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands.
That's talking about Esau, because Esau is a proud devil. Even when his society is destroyed, he's going to still be popping shit. That's why we're going to lay the boom on his ass, man. Go ahead.
That they should not worship devils and idols.
Because that's what they do. So what in the hell is wrong with this stupid nigga, this musclehead nigga, a false prophet 666, talking about Esau could be saved, and Bubble Ass 666 talking about there's a small remnant of Esau that's going to deny their father. That's not in the scriptures. That's not in the scriptures. He just made that BS up. And when you go back to the history of Esau, when Amaziah destroyed them, what did Amaziah do after he destroyed them, after he pushed them off of the mountains? He took their gods. Esau had their own gods. Esau wasn't looking for the Most High. And they ain't looking for them. They ain't looking for the Most High right now. Go ahead. Like I said, the day of reckoning is going to come. All that game playing is going to come to a stop when the Most High really shows himself. Go ahead.
It says that they
We're not going to feel sorry for you niggas either. We're going to drink to your destruction. Go ahead.
It says that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders nor of their sorcery.
Yeah, they killed a whole lot of people, man. They went over to Iraq, killing people left and right. They're not going to repent of that, man. Jake was talking about, where's my reparation? Esau said, you ain't getting no damn reparation. They don't give a damn. We don't give a damn what we did to you in slavery. Esau shows you that he hasn't changed, man. He was the same guy back there 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, back when Esau came on the scene. He's the same devil. That's what, right. That's why Revelation, the 20th chapter said, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan. Go ahead.
Nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts.
Right, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Because everything that they got, they stole. But a small 5 Edomites is going to deny their father. We deny you, old Esau. The hell out of here, man. Anyway, let's go from there to the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter, and we're going to start from the 1st verse. I had a whole lot more scriptures, but we're gonna end it right on here and get the battle of Verdun up and ready. I start from the 1st verse.
Revelation 6:1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts, saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
That's talking about Yahweh Shai, and he wasn't on an actual horse. He was in a ship. All right? To prove that, give me the book of Revelation. Revelation, well, let's go to Revelation, the 14th chapter, the 14th verse. And then go to Revelation, the 19th chapter, and the 11th verse. Revelation 14 and 14.
Revelation chapter 14, verse 14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud. And upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
Now, we just read that in Revelation 6 from the very top, right? But in Revelation 6, it said he was on a horse. But he really wasn't on a horse. Horse represent power. The churches is thinking he's going to actually be on a horse. That he's going to be on Pegasus. It's talking about his ship, all right? And now go from there to Revelation, the 19th chapter, 11th verse, on down to the 20th verse.
Revelation chapter 19, verse 11. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. And his name is called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean.
The white horses represent what Esau refers to as UFOs, the ships. Go ahead.
And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of almighty power. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of kings and Lord of lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great power, that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men.
That doesn't mean cannibalism. That means we're going to destroy them, and we're going to take the riches that they possess. Go ahead.
And the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh.
That's right. So that's that day. Now go to the Apocrypha. Give me the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, and start from the top, and let's read that quick. Go ahead. See, that's why you got guys jumping around, following guys here and there. You know, 1 minute they're Muslim, the next minute they're Hebrew Israelite, the next minute they're more. These guys that you see, the only one that's really giving you this truth is us. And there's a couple other brothers, Israelites out there that came out of One West. Out of the original, that's where the truth came from. Not from these guys talking about Yahweh and Yahweh ben Yahweh and all this BS. And the white man is Japhet. That's old bullshit, man. Before you were born, Prophet 666, and your flunkies, that stuff was being taught. The name of the Lord is Yahweh. His son's name is Yahshua. And the white man is the sons of Japhet. That stuff was being taught when I was a kid, because I told you before, my parents was part of that bullshit, man. Go ahead.
2nd Ezra 13 and 1. And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance...
What we're reading right now is what we just read in Revelation the 6th chapter, Revelation the 14th chapter, Revelation the 19th chapter, and also we didn't read this, but in Isaiah the 63rd chapter. Go ahead.
And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. And wheresoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea.
Right. Now, in Revelation, it referred to this multitude as the beast. Go ahead.
It says, But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks in tempest, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Afterwards I saw the same man come down from the mountain, and call unto him another peaceable multitude. And there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered.
Hold up, some of them were bound. That's slave. When you bound somebody, that means you put them into slavery. So that means a peaceable group that he's going to gather are the Israelites, the elect. But the ones that are bound, those are Esau and the other nations. They go into slavery, man. All right? That's all I want on that. Let's go back to the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter.
Revelation chapter 6, verse 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon. Power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth.
And that's what Esau did. He was given power to take peace from the earth. Go ahead.
And that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword.
And that they should kill one another. White on white crime. Esau and Esau crime. Now, I'm going to give you an example of that scripture that the brother just read. It said that he had power to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, Esau against Esau, and that they were given a great sword. You got something right there? All right, go ahead.
Isaiah 19 and 1. The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon... Okay. The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom.
Right, that's Esau, man. When that time comes, they're going to fight against each other. When the Lord come back, then they're going to stop fighting to try to fight against the Lord, and then they're going to be annihilated up in the heavens. All right, go ahead.
Genesis 27 verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above.
The fatness of the earth is where you have a lot of greenery and stuff. So Esau then went to all the places around the world where he had good vegetation, good gold, the best of everything. Why do you think he's down in the land of Israel, in the Middle East? Go ahead.
It says, And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass that when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
And that's what you did. After King David, after Solomon, you broke from the captivity of the children of Israel. Where you at now? Go ahead.
It says, And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother.
Right. By thy sword thou shalt live. You serve your brother. You broke away from your brother. You use your sword, that great sword, to destroy the world and take over the world, and then you use that sword against yourself. Now we're going to read about the Battle of Verdun.
Right, the Battle of Verdun, 1916, the greatest battle ever. It says French attack on the German lines during the Battle of Verdun. You'll see the picture. The Battle of Verdun is considered the greatest and lengthiest in world history. Never before or since has there been such a lengthy battle involving so many men. Situated on such a tiny piece of land, the battle, which lasted from 21st February 1916 until 19th December 1916, caused over an estimated 700,000 casualties, dead, wounded, and missing. The battle was not even a square 10 kilometers. From a strategic point of view, there can be no justification for these atrocious losses. The battle degenerated into a matter of prestige of two nations, literally for the sake of fighting. That's it there. Should I go to justification? All right, now I'm going to click on another section called justification. It says justification. They had conquered a notorious hill. They had lived in trenches that had been alternately French and German. These trenches sometimes lay filled with bodies in different stages of decomposition. They were once men in the prime of their lives, but had fallen for the possession of this hill that was partly built on dead bodies already, a battle after which they lay rotted, fraternally united in death. By the way, that was a comment from Georges Blonde commenting on the Battle of Verdun. Verdun has come to represent all the horrors of the First World War, of the pointless massacres, the endless sacrifices of human lives in the battle over a tiny piece of land. Verdun is the symbol of complete annihilation, a fault line in our civilization, as the Dutch author Richard Hegester so eloquently put it. The story of the Battle of Verdun relates the horrors and the pointlessness of the trench war. It tells us of the Minsa of Verdun, where humans were beaten to a pulp by the artillery, the queen of the battlefield. In a pointless material battle, in German,
unable to overcome the psychological impact of war after living in these trenches full
without
of mud,
any
dirt, and
possible
dead bodies.
strategic justification. Looking back, it becomes obvious that this was an absurd war. We can hardly imagine why hundreds of thousands of young men enthusiastically flung themselves into it. We can hardly imagine the horrors of the battlefield where these same young men crawled into a universe where they had nothing to go by, the hell of Verdun. And if they happened to survive, how could they still believe in life when they had seen things worse than death? How could this bestiality ever be in harmony with everyday life, with beauty, love, and a zest for living?
That's why the ones that remained alive, that would that received deadly wounds, they wanted to die, man. But like we read earlier in Revelation 9th chapter, death fled from them, man. So this man, like I said, going back to World War I, which was a devastating war. Then you had World War II, which was devastating. Now we're getting ready for the greatest war that's ever going to be fought. This is going to be the end of your world as you know it, Esau. This is going to be a major war. Now let's go from there to the book of Revelation, the 8th chapter, and let's start from the 4th verse.
Revelation chapter 8, verse 4. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before the Most High out of the angel's hands. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound.
Now, these 7 angels really represent World War III, the Battle of Armageddon. But the way the Most High set it up was, this represents the 7th trumpet, which was broken up into 7 different angels. All right? Go ahead.
The first angel sounded, and there were followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and the 3rd part of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the 3rd part of the sea became blood. And the 3rd part of the creatures which were in the sea had life, died.
That mountain represents Babylon being destroyed. Go ahead.
And the 3rd part of the ships were destroyed.
Right, now, like we read in in Revelation, the 9th chapter, about the 3rd part of man. Well, this is talking about the 3rd part of man again. So the 3rd part of man represent the sons of the wicked, which are the Edomites. This is talking about the end of their world. Go ahead.
And the 3rd angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the 3rd part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the 3rd part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
In other words, the waters became contaminated. So the people that survived, when they went to drink that water, they died from radiation poisoning. Like I said, it's going to be terrible when that deal goes down. Go ahead.
And the 4th angel sounded, and the 3rd part of the sun was smitten, and the 3rd part of the moon, and the 3rd part of the stars, so as the 3rd part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a 3rd part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound.
So basically, in a nutshell, you're not looking too good, Esau. We have found out and we have exposed you for being an Edomite. We have found out and we have exposed you for being the devil. We have found out and we have taught certain people that your society is going down. We have also taught you that you're going into slavery, all right? And there's several scriptures to prove that, man. So these guys that are teaching this stuff contrary to what we're teaching, the Most High is going to destroy them right along with Esau. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.